What do you do when everything tells you to quit? When the odds are impossible? When everyone doubts you? When giving up would be easier than taking one more step? Today we're looking at 4 people from the Bible who faced that exact moment and refused to surrender. Their stories span deserts, palaces, prison cells, and courtrooms. Some are famous, some are surprising, but each chose persistence over surrender. They teach us how faith, courage, and steady action turn trials into triumphs. First, meet Caleb. You've probably heard of Moses, Joshua, maybe even David. But Caleb, he's the warrior who waited 40 years for a promise. As a spy, he trusted God's word when others panicked. Decades later, he still trusted it. At 85 years old, when most people are thinking about retirement, Caleb stood before Joshua and said, "Give me that mountain." The same mountain filled with giants that terrified everyone else 40 years earlier. While an entire generation gave up and died in the wilderness, Caleb kept his eyes on the promise and kept serving the people. 40 years of waiting, 40 years of watching others quit, but he never stopped believing, working, and living as if the promise were true. And at 85, he conquered the land God promised him. Age didn't stop him. Giants didn't stop him. 4 decades of delay didn't stop him. Caleb was unstoppable because he decided the promise was worth the wait, and he kept showing up for it. Then there's Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison. 13 years of injustice. 13 years where giving up would have made perfect sense. In that Egyptian dungeon, Joseph had every reason to become bitter, to curse God, to surrender to despair. But instead, he kept his integrity in small things, serving faithfully for his masters, interpreting dreams with humility, and he kept believing that his story wasn't over. Timing mattered. God used each setback to position him for influence. And one day, in a single moment, everything changed. Pharaoh had a dream, and suddenly the prisoner became the prime minister. Joseph didn't just survive his trials, he used them as stepping stones to his destiny. The pit didn't define him. The prison didn't break him. Because Joseph understood something powerful. Your current chapter isn't your final chapter. Now let's talk about Esther, a Jewish orphan who became a Persian queen, facing an impossible choice. Her people were marked for genocide. One man's hatred had signed a death warrant for an entire nation. Esther could have stayed silent, protected her position, saved herself. Instead, she gathered courage, sought her cousin Mordecai's counsel, and called the people to a fast, preparing spiritually and strategically. Then she said 5 words that changed history. "If I perish, I perish." She risked everything, her crown, her comfort, her very life, to stand up for what was right. Walking into the king's throne room uninvited could mean instant death. But Esther decided some things are worth dying for. She used wisdom and timing, invited allies, and trusted that bold action could change the tide. And because she refused to play it safe, an entire nation was saved. One woman's courage defeated an empire-wide conspiracy. Esther proved that you don't need an army to be unstoppable. You just need conviction, counsel, and the courage to act. Finally, Paul. Beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned, stoned, and left for dead. He faced opposition in every city, persecution from his own people, and rejection from those he tried to help. He wrote some of his most powerful letters from a Roman prison cell, chained to guards, facing possible execution. But listen to what he said. "None of these things move me." Shipwrecks didn't stop him. He just swam to shore and kept preaching. Beatings didn't stop him. He got up and went back to the same city. The prison became his pulpit. Chains became a stage for truth. Paul planted churches across the Roman Empire, wrote half the New Testament, and changed the course of human history. All while facing constant opposition. He was unstoppable because he knew his mission was bigger than his circumstances, and he measured success by faithfulness, not comfort. 4 people, 4 impossible situations, 4 decisions to keep going when quitting made sense. Caleb waited 40 years. Joseph endured 13 years of injustice. Esther risked her life. Paul faced constant persecution. But they all had one thing in common. They refused to give up. Your story isn't over. Your breakthrough is coming.